Welcome to episode 65 of Sketching Up. I'm your host, Chris Schnabel, with Kyle Scott, and we have a guest here with us today. So I'm going to throw it right over to Matt here, and he's going to tell us a little bit about himself. Go ahead, take it away.
What's going on, boys? Love the pod. You know, long-time listener, first-time caller kind of thing here. I'm Matt.
Callers?
From New Jersey. I've never been able to say that because I've never called into a radio show. This is the perfect time. Come on. So I'm from New Jersey, huge DC fan. Love, but I love everything comics. Love it, takes you out of that world. I tell people, I read comics now because the world we live in now is like a comic book. So why not read it with the little superheroes in it? You got Superman saving the day. We don't have that here. So no. I love comics. I do love Marvel. I read more DC than Marvel. I follow the MCU like it's a religion. I love it. It's been great. We'll get into the DCEU and the things that, I love, things I hate, things that I just don't see going in the right path, but we'll get to that stuff. And then me and Kyle are going to just rep on some anime because I love anime, man. I got into it when I was in college. I just wasn't finding anything on TV. I was just and they started to slowly put it on streaming services and stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to give it a try. And back in the day when Toonami was on, I was watching Dragon Ball Z, Gundam. I'm a huge Gundam fan. That's my bread and butter right there is Gundam. I love every single one. I've watched it a million times. But college really just stepped that up. I hit onto One Piece, went into that and just got sucked in, watched all of that, I just got done with the most recent season of My Hero Academia, and since we're all heroes, we're all into the hero stuff. That thing that took me for a ride, and I have to say, these animes get you emotional. I get physically emotional, and I have to back up a little bit and be I'm watching cartoons, and there's tears running down my eyes.
There's nothing wrong with it, bro.
Nothing wrong with that,
yeah.
Bro.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, look at Kyle right now. He's about to have tears rolling down your eyes for you talking about cartoons.
Dog, let me tell you something. It's anime, bro. So, but here's the thing. I get you. First, I got so many questions for you, Matt. First question, I just got to ask. Yeah. What part of Jersey?
By the way, if anybody needs me, I'll be over here.
Yeah, we got you, bro.
Sit back in the club. Mute the mic. Let us get into this, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
there you go.
What part of Jersey are you from? Because, me and my family, we used to live in Newark. So, my uncle's still in Newark. My sister's still in Newark. So what part of Jersey?
I'm not far from Newark. I'm in North Jersey. I grew up in Franken Lakes, New Jersey, and right now I live in Nutley, New Jersey.
Okay.
Currently, I'm in Montclair, just hanging out at my girlfriend's place with our dog and everything. So, but yeah, I've lived up here. I lived in Philadelphia for 6 years. Love that. We were just talking about fan bases, and I gotta tell you guys, Philly's fan base is unruly. And I was there when they won the Super Bowl. I was there when they won the Super Bowl, and I walked into the city, and the videos you saw from that didn't do it justice. It was like a war zone. It was literally a war zone of celebration. But that's celebration to them. It's let's just burn everything down out of joy. Cool.
I never understood burning things down. I never understood burning things when Yale and Quinnipiac played in hockey, they burned mattresses and stuff, and I'm like, why? Mattresses are expensive. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense to me. You're burning a couple grand.
That's an investment.
Yeah, spend half your life. You spend half your life.
Yeah. So yeah, but I loved it down there. But I moved back up here for work, and back home where all the buddies are, and and it's been great. I love it up here. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, Matt and I used to work together. That's how we know each other. Years and years ago. Many years ago. Hudson Valley Renegades. I don't even know what year. Probably 2014.
Yeah.
I've been back. I've been back a couple times for some games. Actually, I went back like last year.
I'll definitely go if you're going to a game this year. Like, I'll definitely come up. Yeah, let's do it. It's not that far from me. It's the same amount of time it would take me to get to Marist. So it's
I actually have to like make a plan for it because it's like 2 hours away. I gotta make sure.
I think it's like
Kyle's also invited, by the way. You could fly up if you want.
100%. Yeah.
Get up here and do a live show.
Yeah.
We're gonna do that one of these days.
Get up here, get that live show going.
The only opportunity we had for a live show, we were like, nah, we just want to chill.
Yeah, because he was down in Atlanta. He was down here.
I got stuck in Atlanta on a layover.
He did. I came and picked him up. Because I'm only like 20, 30 minutes from the airport. So I went and scooped him. We hung out all night long, dropped him off, went to work. It was smooth. It was just like college.
Yeah.
So
it was so nice. It was so nice. But we were like, we should record. And we're like, nah, we're just chilling. Like, this is fun. This is great.
Enjoy the
only time we get.
Enjoy the time that you have together.
That's what we did. And then we went back like 2 days later and recorded.
Yep, 100%. And talked about it.
And talked
about it, yeah. That's where we sat on the couch like, oh, this could be good content.
Literally, we talked about some content, chilled out, and then got on the thing. Yeah, so this is what we talked about while we was in person, even though we could have did a show, but we was like, bump y'all. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just how it be sometimes, you know? It's all good, though. Ain't nothing wrong with it.
The accent that came out after it just had me dying. It's like he just went from one level to another very fast. Like that. Like literally like that. Anyway, Matt, continue on. We're just kind of getting off track now. So anytime that happens, just stop us. Like you become the host. Like, just stop us.
Like we just be you go. Me and Schnabel is bugged, bro. Like you take that. You take that. Straight take that.
Oh. But all right, Kyle, then I have a question for you, man.
Good. Rock with me, bro. Holla at me, big dog.
So, what would you say the best anime is story-wise?
Like my favorite or what I actually think is the best?
Yeah, what you actually think is the best story-wise.
Both. Give us both.
Oh, yeah.
Right, what you think the best story-wise is and your favorite. I mean, they should be the same, but the way you asked, I'm assuming they're not.
No, they're not. They're not the same because there's some of them that's like, okay, the story that I think is written the best, even though the anime didn't do it. Only 2 seasons of the anime did it real justice. Is Tokyo Ghoul.
Okay.
Because the third season was it was mid. 4th season, get it out of here.
Should have cut it. Yeah.
Well, my issue was they didn't. If they would have stuck with the manga and actually put everything in it, it would have been straight. Like he goes from being a straight up just ghoul, top ghoul. You know what I'm saying? Number 1 ghoul in the whole universe to now he got white hair with a black spot on top, and now you a fed. Like that makes no sense, and it just
can we get some? Can we get some like what is this show?
It's called Tokyo Ghoul.
Yeah, but give a quick synopsis. Yeah, I know what the name of it is.
Sorry.
I heard you say that part.
So Tokyo Ghoul is basically about like a dude. So this is like their thing called a ghoul. Basically, and they eat humans and like monsters or whatever. Right? And they're like mad powerful, got all these special powers and crap. So Kaneki Ken, the main character, homie went to a bookstore, seen a baddie, and was like, bet, shot his shot because he a real gangster. You feel me? Real pimp. Real pimp. Kaneki Ken Sled was a real pimp. He was like, what's up, girl? You know what I'm saying? She was like, ooh, I'm choosing. And she chose. But he didn't realize the girl that was choosing on him was a bit of a man eater, literally.
Oh, shit.
I'm just saying. She was a man eater for real. Because she ended up being a ghoul and she ended up turning him into a ghoul. And
so she didn't eat him, she just made him a ghoul.
Yeah. And she made him into a really powerful ghoul. But you see the transition from him going from like this meek and mild human boy that is like super sweet and
A
nice
boy?
to like the straight gangster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
He was a boy when this happened, or was he like an adult?
he was in high school. He was like a high school kid.
Okay, teenage. Okay, that's
Yeah. He was like a teenage. You got to realize I teach high school, so I still look at them as kids. Like, they're still babies.
Well, they are kids. I'm not saying that's not a kid, but when you said a boy, I'm thinking like a little 8-year-old is.
Oh, nah. See,
girls are getting turned into ghouls.
It's weird because most animes is like based around high school, college age.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, so
that makes sense.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so like if they would have explained everything in between, I would have been cool. That's my issue. But then my favorite, just in general, I love Mob Psycho 100. That storyline is the wildest storyline. So the storyline is there's basically.
Matt, do you know this one?
So that's on my list to go into next.
So don't spoil anything. Don't spoil anything.
But
this is why I asked.
If he gives us a synopsis like he just did for Tokyo Ghoul, I just want to hear that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's fine. I don't want him to spoil anything. See, when he talks anime with me. When he talks anime with me, I don't care if he spoils it because I've never seen it anyway. I don't know half the things he's talking about, so it doesn't spoil anything because I have no idea where you're going. I don't know. Like I was just like had to stop him. He's talking about ghouls with white hair. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? So I'm like, yeah. So Kyle, give that synopsis, but spoiler free. Right. No spoilers.
I got you. So by the way, Matt, we got to get you back on because when you do. We gotta talk about it because that's one of my top 5 right there. Yeah. Mob Psycho 100. You know what I'm saying? So all right, so Mob Psycho 100 is basically you're in the universe, there's normal humans, and then there's like psychics where they got like psychic powers and all that fun stuff. Right? So like Mob is this boy, so he's like teenage. So he's like teenage kid, but he works for this like psychic agency, but he's a fraud, and you know it off rip. He's a fraud, but he's like a shady guy. He's like a shady scammer who just happens to have parental skills. It's the stupidest concept ever. But when you watch it, and then there's like this little ghost, this little entity that's just hanging around and messes around, becomes their friend. Bro, you got to watch it. And they get into all sorts of adventures. They meet all sorts of like psychics and mob. And oh, by the way, when you watch it, pay attention to the number meter. Because the number meter is once he gets to 100%, he's spazzing. Okay. And then you see his full powers pop out. It gets real, real wild.
All right.
Yeah, it's great. It's pretty funny though. It's hilarious. Have you ever watched?
He needs you on here.
Have you ever watched?
Because he said, I started laughing. No, you can go in a second. I started laughing because he's talking about this. I'm like, oh, this is good. And then he's like, yeah, and there's this little ghost that hangs around. And he's like, watch the number meter too. And I'm like, what the? See, this is where he lost it. The ghosts and number meters. What is he talking about?
Because when you
watch the show has watched anime, this is all normal. This is like
I know, I realize now that this is normal.
And your head is just like, what the fuck is going on?
This is so funny. All right, Kyle, you were asking if he's watched something, so continue there.
Have you ever watched Konosuba or Konosuba?
Yeah,
dog.
A while back, when it was so good.
It's hilarious, dog.
Yeah, I do like the animes that like are funny. Like it has enough action, but there is like lighthearted parts where it's funny because you can get an anime that is like so gory, so just messed up, and then there's like these funny parts that kind of like bring you back down because like it gets to a point where like I was watching Chainsaw Man, and I was like I love this, but like. I'm trying to eat dinner. I can't eat dinner while I'm watching this. This is just like it's just too much. Like I'm gonna vomit all over the place. Like you watch it, but then like it cuts to a scene and it was like hilarious. It was like funny. So I was just like, okay, I can keep going. You know, just you slowly but surely, let's keep going. Like, yeah, but I love that anime too. I can't wait for more. Like, that one was great.
Did you want me to explain Chainsaw Man to you?
No, you've done it before. You've done it before.
Oh, I have?
Yeah,
Okay,
that one has been a part of the podcast before. You didn't explain it in full, but I at least knew that one when he said it. I was like, yeah, that I remember that one. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I'm really contributing.
Matt, sorry, my bad. What's your favorite anime?
My favorite is Gundam 00.
Okay.
I love the Gundams because like of kind of the political strife it gives you, of like kind of that question, like how would we as a society deal with people living in space, and how would that between people still living on Earth and people still living in space, and like who governs them? Would they govern themselves? Would they do that? And for Chris, the whole premise of this is that the Earth pretty much used up all its fossil fuels, so it doesn't have anything. So the countries kind of came together and formed kind of, I would say, super countries, like 3 of them, and they used their resources to build these huge towers that put, kind of like a ring around the Earth that absorbs the UV sunlight, and that generates all the power, so they don't need to use fossil fuels anymore. And these towers are kind of in these major super countries, and so there are certain things they're allowed to do with those. And what the big problem was they were militarizing them. So military started to build up, and so these Gundam pilots created a group that would do armed interventions, meaning they would, if there was a battle going on between 2 countries, they would go in the middle and fight both sides to stop the fighting. And so you find out later down the line that, this concept of these Gundams were invented like generations ago, and they were just coming onto the scene now, and that the propulsion system that they use kind of is like, no one else has that, so why don't we have that? And so instead of it like then going down to calm down everybody, they start to build up more because of the threat of the Gundams. And it's just an interesting take on how the world reacts to another source of energy, and why they would fight and why they would go after each other. And the connections with the characters you have in those is pretty deep, because you can see they're all from different walks of life. And they need to work together, but they're all very different from each other. And certain things shape their lives because of all these towers, because of all these super countries, and what they're kind of governed in. So they join this group, and they work to kind of end all fighting, but they're fighting themselves. So is it truly what they're doing was right? So it's a good question, and I love that. And probably with that, the same thing is like Gundam Wing is probably my second favorite anime of all of them.
That interests me so much, and there was no curveballs. You didn't then go, and their dog speaks gibberish and can do magic.
No, it's all about...
Kyle just gave me the meanest look when I just said that.
Kyle spat out like 2 animes, and you're like, nah. And then I just talk about one, and you're like, I'm in. I'm fighting with him.
Kyle would be so mad if I came back next week and said, I watched the one Matt talked about. He'd be like, what about the thousands I told you to watch?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even be mad. I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be like, how did you like it? I would be civil on air, but off air, you would get a proper cussing.
No, that actually, the one you just explained, I think it's just such an interesting, that concept is so interesting to me, because I'm huge on like history. Yeah. So like, even though it's not history, it's just so interesting to me that like.
Well, I think I would suggest, and Kyle cut me off, I would suggest starting off with Gundam Wing. I think that's a good jumping off point for like the Gundam universe, and that's more about colonies. So the they sent people up, they built a colony, and then they populated them. And then the Earth was like, well, we want to govern you. And then the other side was like, we should govern ourselves. You sent us up here in these extreme conditions. We built all these colonies. Let us do that. And within that time frame, they're pretty much spokesperson who they wanted to become like their president gets assassinated. And so they know it's the Earth Federation who did it. And they want to kind of, they want them to take the blame for it. They're not. They're saying it was just a wannabe person who did it. And so they decide, okay, we're going to send down these Gundams and they're going to destroy all the military bases on Earth. But then it goes in a little deeper because the strife that they land on and they start killing, they realize that the strings are getting pulled by one person, by one group called Oz. And they didn't know this at the time. And because Oz is kind of like a military group that was formed and has all this funding, and they're building mobile suits, they're doing all this great stuff, and they're kind of pulling the strings to take out the leaders of the Earth Federation who want pacifism, who want to give the colonies their own government, wants to do that, and kind of direct them to kill all those people. And then it's kind of like, are they doing the right thing? Are they really helping out everything? And the big question is there anything real to full pacifism? Can we get pacifism in this time of mobile suits? So that one is like the first one I watched.
How old is this this
So Gundam Wing
anime?
came out, I think the 90s. It was
Did
on
it?
2000.
So it's unbelievably, this is crazy because this happened after. That is like, I don't know how much you guys know, like with world history and world conflicts. That is so unbelievably similar to like the Iran and United States thing that happened not like 2 years ago, where we almost went to full-fledged war with Iran. But it came out in the 90s. That happened in 2019.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
I mean,
like the U.S. they had. I guess that's true. I mean, because obviously conflicts like that have happened before. I mean, that's how World War, what was it, 2 or 1 started with the killing of the president. But that's what happened with Iran is they had their conflicts, and then the U.S. had a strike in Iran, killed their president, and then Iran responded by bombing all the Iraqi headquarters in the United States headquarters in Iraq. And it, like literally almost led to World War III. If you don't know about that, by the way, definitely look into that, read about it. It's unbelievably interesting about how unbelievably close we were to World War III, literally like a year or 2 ago. And you don't even know about it if you don't read about it. It's crazy.
It's not like it never really made major headlines,
which is nuts. It almost started World War III and it didn't make major headlines.
And I was talking to my buddy, and he's a history teacher in a middle school, and he was like, we were discussing this, and he's just like, I don't think people realize that like shit could have hit the fan within a day.
Within a day,
that the shit could have hit the fan, and we could have been, in crisis mode. And he was like, and if this happened, this would have lasted longer than any other war that we would have had, because people would have just been arguing. Like that's what we are right now. It's like arguing and then fighting.
I want to build off what you're saying. Okay. And I apologize. I won't have all the terms or anything because I'm doing this off the top of my head. So there is a canal, or what is it called? Not a bend. There's like a bay, right? And it has a little locker. I don't remember what they call it, but there's a little lock of land, and it leads into this bay. And in this bay is Iran, Iraq, all these countries that you get our oil from. And that is the only way in and out to make it to all the major countries. You can't go any other way to get out of there. And Iran controls a big portion of the one side. So that's where it's all starting, because Iran threatened to close off the passageway by either they would probably put bombs underneath or something, but they were going to close off the passageway, which would completely stop the entire world economy because there would be no oil for any countries, because the way to get it across in the pipelines is so we only get 20% of the oil that gets pushed out. So if there's 100 million, only 20% of that, you're not running the world that way. And that's how the whole conflict started. And then the United States comes in and makes sure that doesn't happen. And they have air bases there that fly over and look over. And Iran, the entire coastline, created things to take down the aircraft. And that's, I'm going a little too much into a territory that I don't know all the facts like in front of me, but I know a lot of the facts off the top of my head. That's the plane that was shot down, that the Ukraine flight that was shot down. They thought that was the United States retaliating to when they bombed all of those spots. Like they bombed a bunch of camps, U.S. camps in Iraq, and then they thought they were retaliating, so they shot down that plane. But it was just a commercial flight going to the Ukraine. And that's when it came to its boiling point, and it was very close to triggering World War III, and you don't even hear about it. It's nuts. But this is about comic books, so let's get off of this.
Yeah.
No, so Pete, though, you know which ones you would like, though, Schnabel? You know
Which
what
ones?
anime you would like? It's called Code Geass.
Yeah, you would really like that.
Because it's highly political. You would also like, because Code Geass is about like basically this dude rises to, he's not Hitler, but he rises to power. Like this common dude rises to power, and you just see how he basically becomes the villain to save his people. You would like it.
I like that. I do like that concept. You know what, Kyle? You know what you need to do? You need to start texting me these names instead of telling me on air so I can forget. You text me the name of these things.
I'm gonna make a document. I'm gonna put a section on the document. Animes for Schnabel to watch at some point before we both die.
Listed from 1 to 1,622.
Yeah, sure.
And all of them have 42 seasons. Good luck.
Yeah.
No, they don't. I got you. I'll give you a few one. I'll give you a few seasons. I'll give you a bunch that's like one season. I got you. I ain't gonna do
there's
that.
4 seasons, but there's like 400 episodes.
400 episodes per season.
Yeah, 4 seasons. So.
That's why he said that. He's like, oh, don't worry. I got one that's 1 season. How many episodes? 1,200.
It's good.
It don't start picking up to episode 800, but you need all the other 800 episodes.
Yo, once you get through the first 800 episodes, you are going to be in. Trust me.
That's where it sucks you in. That's where you can't.
That's where it sucks you in. Episode 1233 made me cry. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
I mean, as much as we're joking, this is kind of One Piece, bro.
Yeah,
it's
100% One Piece.
This is like
totally agree.
I think One Piece is like at 1,090 something episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That's
are you caught up?
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Okay, me too. All right, so like,
and that took a lot for me to do because One Piece took me a long ass time to get through. And
6 months.
There are a lot of those episodes where it's just like, why am I watching this? What is going on? This just does not intrigue me whatsoever. And then,
fillers.
like we're saying, you get to and then you get to one episode and like shit hits the fan, and you're like, this is why I fucking love this show. This is why. It's amazing.
But it's like any cartoon. That's like any cartoon. Lots of fillers, but then there's going to be an episode that really hits you.
But this is the thing about this, Schnabel, though. But One Piece, the filler episode will give you information about what's really hitting the fan. That's what's so crazy about it. Because, like, okay, like I know you're never gonna watch it, Schnabel. So remember Smile?
Oh yeah.
When we seen the Smile.
You said it took you 6 months to catch up. I was out.
Smile. Oh yeah, bro. I made a whole schedule for it. It took me 6 months.
By the way, spoilers for anybody that
Smile?
hasn't seen the 15,000 episodes before you go on. I don't want somebody to be like, "Oh, I was not there yet." So there's spoiler alerts from this point on. Just imagine there's spoilers for everything. 90. All right. Yeah, since you hit play, it's been on, but now we're actually giving a warning.
Very much.
Let's do this. Go ahead. Hey, if you haven't watched anime within the last 20 years, leave. Like, go home, bro. Go home and watch.
They probably are.
Schnabel just gets up and leaves.
It just gets up. You're right. Pause. Gets up. Walks out the door.
But
yeah, it's one of those. It's those. I love those shows. I do. It was the same for me with Naruto. Like getting through those shows, it's
that's
so
my number
good.
one.
It just you gotta just buckle through. Like you just gotta get through. And it's the same for Naruto, where you watch these episodes, the filler episodes, and like right at the end, it gives you a little bit of like what's gonna happen in like the actual story arc. And so you just watch this whole filler episode just for maybe 20 seconds at the end, and you're just like, all right, okay, next, cool. Next episode, it's a filler. 20 seconds later, you're like, all right, cool, that's going to be great. And then you're like 6 episodes of filler, and then you're like, when is this going to start? Please, just get it there. And then it finally does. And I told my friend, it's the anticipation of Christmas when you were a kid. Like December 1st, and you have all those filler days before December 25th. And then when December 25th rolls around, you're like, yes, I made it. Time to open some presents. And that's like some of these animes. That's what it's
a good way to put it. It's a good way to put it.
How did you feel about the My Hero Academia this past season, bro?
This past season is great. I was kind of like holding my breath because they're doing there's so much action. There's so much, villains going. There's a whole war going on, and I love every single one of the main characters. And like I was just holding my breath to see like one of them go. Like I was like, if one of these guys go, I'm going to lose it. And it got to a certain point at the end where you saw guys who you love get really rocked. Like they got messed up, and you're like, how are they going to come back from this? It's just, and especially the, spoiler alert, the Razorhead with taking, there's like a bullet that takes away people's powers, Chris, and he got it in the leg, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just chops his leg off with a knife, and you're just like, what are you doing? And he survived, and he still has his power. It's just like, how is he going to do anything after this? Like, are we not going to see him anymore as much as we have been seeing him? And like, I would hate to not be able to see him like every episode thrown down with someone. And it was kind of the same for me. Like when I saw it coming, we all saw it coming, but when All Might officially finished and he did his last fight, and you knew he wasn't coming back to do the amazing things we've already seen him do in the show, it just hurt. It hurt to realize that we're not going to see him get powered up and like just Texas smash someone, and we're not going to see that. And I'm ready for Midoriya to take that mantle more, but we're seeing in him he's being a little too reckless with these powers. He's getting more and more powers to kind of deal with, but he's in such, and it's not his fault anymore. This is not like school when he's reckless. This is like, if he's not reckless, he may die. So to see him do this, and you have that in the back of your head when they did it in the earlier seasons, if he does a smash with one of his arms again, he can't use that arm anymore. So it's just like, I don't want to see him all just beaten up, like, and how is he going to, handle that and see that? So I think the best reveal of this past season was the missing Todoroki brother coming back and selling it, and seeing how, the reaction of Endeavor seeing him and just being so taken back that he couldn't fight anymore. And then him going up against his youngest brother, who is the perfection, who is the person who his father wanted him to be with the fire and ice, and seeing them go at it, and seeing his older brother with such, like, in my mind, it was such a big difference. He may be this loose cannon villain, but it seems like he has a control over his power like the youngest doesn't have. he doesn't have that control and that confidence to use both sides. And you see it, you watch it, them fighting, it's just like, he can create ice glaciers taller than skyscrapers, and he's just getting his butt whooped by his brother because he's not using that. He's only using his fire, and you already know that he's not confident using his fire. So where is that going to go? Those two going at it. Like, I'm invested in that. I'm invested in seeing how Bakugo goes and how he survives. He really put his life on the line. He just kind of snapped out of this childhood mentality of, I just want to be the best. I want to be the number one. I want to be the number one hero. And I think it snapped finally because he realized he's in the middle of a war, going up and saving Midoriya and getting him out of the way. And now, where's he going to go from this? Is he going to be the same guy, or is he going to be more angry at the fact that he got taken out and he needs to, redeem himself to his peers? So I'm excited. I can't wait for the second half of the season to come out. Like, I can highly say that, like, I'll be in front of my TV watching it as soon as it comes out, because it's just such good storytelling, in my opinion. Like, it when I first started it, I thought it was going to be like X-Men, because it's about people who develop like a gene that gives them powers, and they call them quirks. And it kind of is like, it's like getting the X gene. It's like all of a sudden you start having powers, and people are kind of freaked out about that. But in this world they built, it's like, okay, you have powers. Now you can either, not use them and live a normal life, or you can go and start going to school to become a hero and then work for a hero agency where you get dispatched to different things and you patrol different cities. And then, you have those people who have quirks and they want to be bad. They want to be villains. So, and it's interesting, and we're following these kids who started at one of the best hero high schools that they teach you. And, the best heroes went to this one. So we're watching them, and they're only in their, I think their second year, and they've had to deal with stuff that full-grown heroes have never had to deal with. So it's them tackling not knowing everything, but then getting thrown into the fire and seeing if they can deal with this. From day one, they were always dealing with some type of threat, because the villain population is growing and growing and growing. And, the story now is about these people with quirks. They may not be, this group is, both villains and heroes, but they're tired of society telling them what to do. So they kind of banded together, and they want to they want people who have quirks to rule the world. Kind of a Magneto. Like, they think they're the superior race, and they should be able to make the decisions. The people who don't have quirks should not be making decisions for society. So it's interesting. It's a lot of fun.
But also the another element that to me just got added in, at least more this season, is the role of like the government.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because like the role of the government and the general public, because the biggest thing that stood out to me was Endeavor. Like, first off, watching Endeavor break down at the sight of his son made me cry, because when we watched that, man, he was like, yo, I looked for you. Like, think about literally burning an entire place to look for your son, bro.
Yeah.
Like Schnabel, he basically scoured the country to look for his son, bro. Like it was wild. Like, you watch him do it. He had a mental breakdown when he couldn't find his son. Like, and that's, now it makes sense why he was so bitterly angry and threw himself into work. And then you're just like, dad, because it's like watching Endeavor became my favorite after around season 3, after his whole redemption arc.
Yeah.
And then like watching him this season be like the number one hero, and people finally, like, he's finally not misunderstood. And then now that it came out that Dobby is his son, it's like you watch everybody like doubt him, even though they watched that man put the life on the line. So it's crazy, Schnabel, because they watch so Endeavor's kind of like an anti-hero in a way. Like, he's known to be like this super edgy hero to kind of take it too far, and he was kind of like a bad dad to his kids, kind of. where it's like, oh, my kids got to be as good as I am, and I'm the number 2 hero in the world, type of deal. You know, so it's kind of like, he's like Omni-Man. He's like Omni-Man.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
legit. He's Omni-Man. But when I tell you that man can scrap, bro, like watching him fight that Numu, like bro, he burned. He literally burned because he has like the flames. That's his superpower. He burned a being who can literally regenerate in seconds, bro. We watched that thing pop an arm out when it got cut off, bro. And he burnt that thing to crisp, homie. Like, it's wild. But, like, watching the public lose faith in heroes. Oh, bro, it is.
That's a big one.
That's a great trope.
Love. Yeah, like the people were watching it, and these villains were kind of putting stuff into the airwaves of saying, you know, what these heroes are doing. You know, they're not right all the time. They're not someone you should put up on a pedestal, and kind of they're not like the boys where the heroes are like horrible people, but the sense of the public not knowing the collateral damage they cause, all of this stuff, and only knowing them for taking down huge villains, saving the day, making sure people are safe when they're walking home at night. Like, that's all they know them for. But these villains start putting into the airwaves of, you know, this is really what's going on. You know, Endeavor is like Kyle said, an anti-hero. He may take things a little too far. Like, he, you know, they're you find out like these heroes, they're not trying to kill. They're trying to, you know, put down and you know, put into a place where they can be rehabilitated, these villains. But some of these guys like Endeavor are taking it next step, and just, he does not care if you survive or not. He's just stopping the crime, and he will put you into the ground if you don't stop. And the public doesn't see that. So now the public perception of heroes is waning away from them. And the government, like Kyle said, is coming in big because they rely on these guys so much. They rely on their work, and they're all about, the government wants to be in the spotlight of the citizens, not seen as bad. So they may even turn on them. So it's a very big question on what is the My Hero Academia world going to look like next, moving forward. Because the last story arc saw most, in my opinion, the most destruction of cities and of areas that we have seen ever. You know, so what are these people who lost their homes, who lost family members? What are they going to say about the heroes? Because they couldn't stop these people. They couldn't stop them. And it's interesting to see what their perception is. Is there going to be a divide in the country? Is there people going to say, we still believe in them, they still ended up stopping them? Or, you know, why didn't you know about this like resurgence of villains happening? Why didn't you know about this anytime sooner? Why didn't you stop them anytime sooner? That's really your only job, is to know what these villains are doing and know what they're planning. So I'm excited, and I get like this nervous feeling in my stomach because, like I said, they're all beloved. They're all beloved, and this could change the dynamic of this whole show right off the bat.
Yeah.
So
I think I got to get into it. This one interests me more than any show that Kyle's brought. Not saying like you've brought this to my attention before. This one interests me more than any of the other ones. Because this is right in my wheelhouse. Yeah, I do.
And they have a whole season for villains. Like, they have a whole season where you see the villains do their thing. And it's beautiful. Because you watch, like, okay, so the main villain, he starts out as a sorry villain. Like, he's getting murked every time. He'll have a nice little plan. He'll succeed once or twice, but then get murked. But then, like, really the last season, you just see him get better and stronger to where now, like, he's like a real deal. Like, yo, homie literally decimated the entire country, bro. Just like cooling. You know what I'm saying? Like like let's say he took out the entire East Coast. Let's just say that.
Okay.
From
That's where we are.
from Maine to Florida, it's gone because of him.
The one thing about this villain that I actually love is you can kind of feel for him. You see his.
That's what makes it the
up,
best.
You know, he has a power that, like, if he touches something, it decays, and he had a very, he had a loving mother, but he had a very tough father who didn't like heroes. You know, he had a major hero in his family, a very big hero in his family. It was his aunt, and he didn't really understand like what that was, and he was still getting ragged on by his father. And like I said, these quirks come on, when you get a certain age, and it will happen, out of stress. Same as like getting the X gene. Like when you're in high stress situations, they may bloom, and this is what happened. And then he ends up, doing horrible things, and he blames heroes for the way he is. He doesn't like it, and then he finds a mentor that is already a major villain, and he kind of corrupts him even worse. And you see him more and more, like Kyle said, like in the beginning, he's trying these like childish things. Like he thinks of going up against heroes as like a video game, and he's trying to beat them in a video game. And this mentor is telling him, you kind of have to take this a little more seriously, and start out small, and then just make your way up. Build your following around you, and then come up and start. And we're at the point where he has come up. He is the head honcho of the villains, and he has a power upgrade, and he's just ruthless now. He can't see anything right or wrong anymore, where he probably did in the beginning, but he's been corrupted for so long now. And all those defeats by the heroes have really taken a toll on his psyche, where he's just, this is it. I'm going to go after them as hard as I can. I don't care if I die. It's just, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get my message out to the people that heroes aren't that great. They aren't the good people you think it, and we are the real regular people with quirks. We're just trying to be normal people, and they're preventing that. And so it's a crazy story. So yeah, Chris, I would totally get into it.
Is this a Crunchyroll vehicle?
Yeah, I think so.
You can watch this on Hulu too.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, because I think it's on something else, isn't it? It's on Hulu.
Yeah, you can watch it on Hulu.
So if anybody else that wants to watch this that hasn't watched it, like myself, Hulu,
My Hero
or
Academia.
Crunchyroll, My Hero Academia. I got it. I got the first time.
So
Cause it's been a good like appetizer for you.
Yeah, I think so, because I want to get more into it. But like talking about heroes now, I kind of really want to talk to you guys about Horizon Miller, and a hero that we've seen on the big screen. We've seen him in now, 2 movies now? Because we can count the stupid
at
Justice
least 2,
League.
right? Yeah.
And the real Justice League movie. And let me just tell you this. When they first cast
you have the
him,
floor.
I was not excited.
Go ahead. You have the floor here.
Yeah. I was not excited when he was casted. I didn't think he fit the mold for Barry Allen, and I love The Flash. I'm a huge avid Flash reader. I'm caught up to today's Flash, and I just don't think he fits the Barry Allen moniker enough. And when you see him as the Flash, and then you have Grant Gustin as the CW Flash. Grant Gustin does a better job at portraying Barry Allen than Horizon Miller, and Horizon Miller is in these blockbusters, and the CW is something, we can even get into that. It's just, the Flash has just been better there than it is on the big screen, where they have tons of money to throw at this, and to really take the time to look for a good actor to play this, and I just wasn't excited. Now, when the Zack Snyder Justice League came out, and I watched it. I didn't hate him. I didn't hate his portrayal that much. It didn't feel like the Barry Allen I know from the comic books. It just felt like they're kind of their own take on it. And, you know, he seems like he's a little more buffoonishy, where in the comics he is quirky and funny, but he's more smart. He's really into being a CSI. He's very smart, and he like keeps his head in the game, where he can be funny and goofy, but like majority of the time you're seeing he's really in it. And this one was just like this quirky guy who is smart, but like, you know, he's trying to figure out his powers and stuff like that. And it didn't seem like he was the real essence of Barry, who, you know, he has that loss of his mother. His mother was killed, and, you know, he's more kind of brought back from that until you get to the certain point where he, you know, does Flashpoint, he does all that. But it's just, I just didn't connect with him, you know. The other characters I did, and it just sucked because Flash is one of my favorite characters, and I just didn't connect with him.
Yeah, I think that comes from, no, this is, honestly, it's just like a guess, but, you know, I think his character change comes from the fact that the MCU had so much success with the goofy buffoons. I mean, look what they did to Thor. Like, yeah. Thor is, they just completely did that. They completely neutered Thor in that way, but it had so much success because, yeah, I'm not caught up on the Flash. I do know a lot about the Flash though, and that the Flash on the screen is not the Barry Allen of the comics. It's very different, and I think they did that because I mean, it's not breaking any news that they were trying so hard to catch up to the MCU, which years ago when we first started the show, I said was the biggest mistake. Don't catch up, start your own, and you will get there, because the MCU can't last forever. There's going to be a downfall. And during this downfall, they could have had, just like comic books, they're never good at the same time. When Marvel's really good, DC is not putting out good stories, and they flip-flop all the time. They could have done the same thing with the movies, but they decided not to do it. But, and Ezra Miller, we don't have to go too much into it. We got that opinion from you. We don't have to talk about him, his stuff off the camera, his personal life. They probably should have canceled that movie. I know it's a huge thing. We got Michael Keaton and all this other stuff, but let's get more into this. The Flash movie's coming out. Aquaman's coming out. Why? We've talked about this on the show before, but now with Matt here. Why? What is the point? Are they trying to close the chapter on this universe? Like, what is the point? Why should I be invested in these movies when I know for a fact they're not going to be the universe that I'm going to be following for the next whatever amount of years?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me because, you know, the Flash is setting up the Flashpoint story, which is, in my opinion, one of the best Flash books of all time. It was just so good. And, you know, they're going to set that up, but there's a continuation after that. Like, we're going to get this one movie and that's it. And if it was just a Flash story, like about his rogues, you know, something goes on and that was it, then yeah, fine. That's great. But this is such a deeply rooted story that they're pulling from. It's like, how do you just end it after that? Like, how do you just like give that story as a one-off and then move on to something new? With the Aquaman, I think, you know, they can.
But I was going to say they don't, because you have Aquaman. They're not. It's going to be a one-off, yes, but they don't end it with that. They're ending it with Aquaman. It makes no sense.
But with Aquaman, at least it's just like it's like, okay, this is Aquaman's movie. At this point, when they started filming the movie, when they started post-production, all of that, James Wan, all of them knew, like, this is going to be it. This is going to be a last. So they probably picked a story that is just one arc and like they can figure out everything. It's just the elements of the Flash is opening up to different universes. Like the Flashpoint universe still exists in the comics. Like, it's still going on. So you're opening up, you know, the multiverse. You're opening up to all these different things, and okay, we're going to restart. It's like, why would you pick that type of story for something that's just going to be a one-off movie? And why do you keep promoting it and putting it out there that it's coming out? It just doesn't seem like this great of a situation. And I think, this movie cost a lot to do. And I think this is all about money. They just don't want to lose money on it. They scrapped the Batgirl movie and they lost a ton of money off of that. They can't lose a lot of money off of these two movies because then we won't get a new DCEU anytime soon because they just won't have the money to put it out. It's just like, and in my opinion, like DC's bread and butter is just doing trilogies not connected right now, just of their own thing. Look how great the Dark Knight series did. Just look at how great that story was told, and doing a story about a Batman that is more about real life than it is the comic books. I love that. It's, you see Bruce Wayne, he's beating the crap up. He bankrupts Wayne Enterprises. Like, anybody who wants to become Batman in the real world is going to bankrupt themselves because you can't pay for all that shit. And you probably won't survive more than 3 years doing the work, So that's so great. That's such a great story to tell. Now, I love the Matt Reeves Batman. I don't want that to connect to anything else. I don't even want to hear about they mentioned Metropolis. Maybe there's a Superman. No, I don't want that. I want this. It was a great gritty detective story in this one. And I want them to move on and go and tell the story of just this world. I'm not in a rush to get all these connected movies with, after credit scenes, all this. For the DCU, I'm not in a rush for that. All right, the Marvel is giving me that already. I can watch that in Marvel movies. I just want to see my favorite characters from DC on the big screen with great storytelling, great acting, and great visuals. And I don't need all this connective tissue to it. Like my big thing was they could have done that with the Zack Snyder. They didn't. It's done. It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
You see all these people screaming and everything about losing Henry Cavill. Is Henry Cavill my Superman? 110%.
He was great.
That man was made to play Superman. He was made to play it, and it was beautiful watching. Man of Steel is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love it to death. But we got that movie so long ago. If you didn't see this happening, they bumbled it because they gave The Rock Black Adam, and he was like, I want Superman versus Black Adam. I want Superman versus Black Adam. Great,
stupid.
But you picked a character that doesn't really have that many story arcs, and he doesn't really go up against Superman all that much.
Goes against Shazam.
Yeah, and he didn't want to be part of the Shazam movie. So, what did you really think was going to happen? And all of that mixed in with everything else, I immediately saw this is the end for Henry Cavill. And I loved him as that. And you know what? I don't think I would trust anybody with that Superman story besides for Zack Snyder. I just don't. I don't think they would give us the Superman we wanted without him. And I know he's not coming back to Warner Brothers. I know that for a fact. He's done with them. They screwed him over way too many times.
Royally.
He doesn't want to do it. And if he's not directing and putting his input into that Superman, I don't want to see that Superman on screen because I don't
give us another one.
Get at this point,
it's been so long. Everybody. Yeah, it's been so long. Give us another one.
Let's just get it. I'm for me and James Gunn taking the helm. I'm happy and I'm hesitant. Those are my two things. I'm happy because he's been at a place where they give a lot of the writers and directors leeway with MCU, and he won't take anything less than that. I know that
he's done most of he's done a couple of the most successful ones too.
Yeah,
the Guardians of the Galaxy series is probably one of the most successful ones.
Yeah, and they're great, and so you have him helming it, and he did. Did you guys watch Peacemaker?
Yes, love Peacemaker. I've told Kyle to watch it. It's so good.
So freaking good. And so if that's the type of style we're going to get, that'd be great. So we have, sorry.
What did it? I think one of the ghosts from Kyle's anime just strolled in.
Yeah, pretty much. So I want something new. Like James Gunn is thinking of a younger Superman. That's great. I want a younger Superman. I want him to really pick up on what like the DC animated, like Batman animated series kind of did, where you have an established Batman already, and you have episodes in that series of flashbacks of when he was younger, when he first met Robin. Like I would rather them all be established and we go back and we see those things in a small way to then get these guys up and running in the DCU, because it's kind of like just beating a dead horse if we're going to retell these stories over and over again.
Over and over, and we don't need to.
It's the funny meme of seeing, like from Spider-Man and his uncle dying, and he tweets out, "Please stop killing me. I don't want to see this again. I don't want to go through this again." Like we don't need to know their origins. Like we're such invested fans that we know the origins of these.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain movies like Blue Beetle's coming out. That will definitely need an origin. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to know about the Beatles before Jaime Reyes and see him. You need all these people to kind of pull this story together so you know who this character is and what this Blue Beetle comes from. But the main guys, the Trinity, we don't need a Wonder Woman, retelling. We don't need
the marquees, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, Wonder Woman, like the marquee names. We don't need it.
Yeah,
I agree.
And
I 100% agree.
I would totally say, like, I would love to get like an origin for Flash, but we're gonna see that in this new stupid Flash movie, so like we can't do that now. So that's out the table.
Yeah, so it's off the table there.
But like I want an origin of the Green Lantern Corps. Like let's get out in space. Let's do space.
I want a Lantern Corps. They need to do a Lantern Corps. Like they need to start out with the origin story and then do the full Lantern Corps with all the lanterns. Like because I like the Red Lanterns.
Yeah.
So like I want to see all that.
Lore of the different lanterns and what they mean is one of the best stories ever. It's just so good. So we need that. I would love a New Gods. Like get into the New Gods. Don't keep Darkseid. We got a Darkseid, but keep him in the back. But like tell the New Gods. Like see what they are, what they're going to do. It's we have so many DC characters. Like we were talking earlier. I told you I had a first edition Booster Gold first appearance. Tell Booster's story. That's a fun story to do, where he's a time traveling hero that's not good at being a hero. Like that's in James Gunn's wheelhouse for sure to do. Like because he is just all over the place, and it's just we just have all these things. Like I want like a Justice League type dark type thing. Like bring in Swamp Thing. Like bring in these Constantine. Please bring back Keanu Reeves as Constantine and bring him back and do something that's really dark and horror, and get your skin crawling a little bit, but it's still heroes,
Speaking of that, you know what they should do?
What's up?
So they should do a darker version of Teen Titans, because like you know what I'm saying? Because like the show, especially like how the show went, especially once you figure out that Slade is literally all in Robin's mind.
Yep.
Bro.
Spoilers.
I'm telling you.
But I think Kyle's right. Like it would be awesome if we got like a standalone Robin movie and we see the progression of Dick Grayson, because right now in the comic books, he's going to be the leader of the new Justice League. And I think that's one of the best things in the world, because he's a better Batman, because he has empathy. He's not all about the dark. And his comic series, I highly suggest anybody, looking for something new to read, if they haven't read Nightwing from like the 2016 to the present, it is so good. He's just he's a better Batman. Like I said, like he emulates everything that Batman and Bruce taught him, but he does it in a different way, and it's fun to see that. It's fun to see like another side of that kind of personality, and not all dark and gruesome and always, it's always going to be the end of the world if something happens. No, he finds different ways to solve problems, and I would love to see, just focus on Dick, and you focus on him. You can bring in, the Teen Titans, like the original Teen Titans. You can bring in Aqualad. You can bring in Speedy. You can bring in Wonder Girl. You can bring in all these, like, I wouldn't say, like, people I don't think know Teen Titans that well. If they
just probably from the show.
The TV show. Yeah.
Yeah, just I would imagine from the show.
The TV show. Yeah, and like if you got that on the big screen, it would just, a little more grittier, a PG-13 type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're doing it in the TV show just a little different, but I like it because it's a little dark. It's a little kind of in your face. Like these guys are really young, but they're fighting people who are out to kill them. So to get that on the big screen and to develop those stories would be really cool. And that's how you can branch out, which would be absolutely amazing. And so with this, I'm happy James Gunn's at the helm. I'm just hesitant, and as anybody should. Like I was hesitant going into Phase 4 of the MCU because there really wasn't any plan. And I understand, it was rest in peace. We were supposed to get Chadwick Boseman as like kind of the face, as Chris Evans was the face. He was going to be that face, and I would have loved
him and
that.
Tom Holland.
Him and Tom Holland. Now that they brought in Neymar, that would have been so cool to see him and Neymar going at it. Just both of them are.
Well,
Neymar is this hardcore, like.
But he wouldn't be in it if Chadwick was still alive. The original storyline did not have Neymar in it. It was the original story. This was just in an interview recently. The original story was like Chadwick meets his son, which spoiler again, we meet his son, and it's like a father-son story, like a coming of age of how he's going to teach him how to become the ruler of Wakanda. And that was the original storyline. And then obviously Chadwick tragically passed away, and they couldn't make that storyline, so they had to change it up. So then they bring Namor in and they change it all up. And obviously you meet his kid, who's also T'Challa, which is a clear indication that they're going to do a soft recast, which I'm a big fan of that. And you can't get rid of T'Challa. I know Chadwick was great, and he was like probably the best Black Panther you can ask for, but you can't then get rid of that character. It's too important to the MCU. Now, I have a question for everybody before we go any further. What are we thinking about a part 2 next week of this? Because we still have plenty of things we can go through, but we are running out of time. You think we should do a part 2? All right.
Yeah.
So how about this? We're going to close out the show. All right. We're going to close out the show. If you were interested in today, come back next Monday and we'll do MCU. We were going to talk about Invincible. We did not do that. We'll do that next week. And maybe we'll throw in we'll sprinkle in some other good stuff. So we talked DC today. And we talked a lot of anime. I bet you Kyle's very happy. He finally got a little appetizer of the anime. And next week we'll talk about that. So Matt, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you obviously next week.
Thank you, guys.
We're going to do that. Make sure you follow us on Schnabel Studios on everything at Schnabel Studios on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, you can listen to it anywhere you get your podcast. And if you're listening to it, same thing. Go to Spotify or YouTube, search Schnabel Studios. You can find any podcast under the Schnabel Studios name. Thank you again for listening to Sketching Up. 65 episodes down. 66 will be next week. We'll continue this on. See you guys later. Matt, thanks for joining us. Kyle, you're always here. No thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you later.